CFMOTO made its name for themselves here in the Philippine market with the 400 NK, and why not? It was a pretty good bike for its price. Now, they also have the 650 NK and the newly released 450 NK. But them making this, the 800 NK, tells me that they mean serious business because they want a piece of a very competitive pie, typically dominated by the Japanese Big Four. So let's find out if the 800 NK is a worthy adversary in this episode of Beyond the Ride. Now, this was launched earlier this year in the Makina Moto show, actually before the 450s were launched. And I remember when the covers were pulled over the bike and I saw the front, I was kind of shocked. I was like, wow, that is something that I've never really seen before. It is quite unique. Now, the headlight alone kind of steals the show. And it's all LED all around. Let's turn that on for you. It's keyless, by the way. And look at that. I mean, it's really unique, right? I mean, only the 450 kind of looks like it, and the 450s were launched actually after the 800. The lines of the bike are very aggressive, and it does really give you the streetfighter naked sport bike kind of feel to it, right? I mean, it's just, I actually really like it. I mean, it's a very unique looking bike, and you do get a lot of stares when you're out on the road because they don't know what it is. I mean, it doesn't look like anything else out there. It does remind me of a bike that you would see in a sci-fi movie or a bike that would belong to a superhero. It is very unique, and it's kind of difficult to say that in a market that is quite saturated with bikes that are, well, very aggressive. So the seat is nice, plush, and pretty wide. It's actually very comfortable. And when you're sitting on the bike, you're not moving too much around the seat because it kind of dips here in the bottom part right here, so you're really just kind of stuck in that position, which is quite good for this bike. Now the pillion seat, I kind of wish that they just made this a seat cowl, to be honest with you, and just do away with the pillion. First of all, it is quite hard, so it does kind of feel like a cowl already. So they probably could have just done away with the pillion seat and just make this a single seater. Now, if there's one thing that I would change with the aesthetics of the bike, it would just really be this, the faux carbon fiber, which of course CFMOTO does love to do on their bikes. I actually think this accent, if it was all this color, this rust or gold color, I think it would actually look better. One of the first things that you notice when you sit in the saddle is that it does not have a traditional handlebar. In fact, when you're here, it kind of gives you a maxi scooter type of vibe to it. Now, whether you like that or not, I guess that it depends on the rider. My preference is to have a traditional handlebar, but the reason why they don't have one is because of this big gauge that they have here that looks like an iPad mini. In fact, this is a iPhone 15 Pro Max, and it's honestly not that much. It's quite big. This gauge is, I've never seen anything like this on a motorcycle before. But I do appreciate the size of this thing because it does give you so much information. In fact, on some ADVs, on top of the TFT screen, some people will purchase GPS devices that they put on top of it. So it kind of looks like this when you're sitting in the saddle. This is kind of that already in one. Now, it does look like a tablet. It looks like an iPad mini, and it kind of acts like one as well. Because the way it is, I mean, first of all, when you turn it on, it has a nice big gauge. And then you wait a little bit and it's gonna go to the maps. And you can actually hook it up to your phone. It does have Apple CarPlay already installed in the tablet. It is touch screen, so if you're wearing gloves, it might be a little bit of an issue unless you have that little thing on the glove that allows you to touch your phone and whatnot. But it has everything. I mean, it is, I've never seen this on a motorcycle. But it's nice that it does have Apple CarPlay already, so your phone is connected to the bike. You can use Waze, you can use everything on your phone. If you want your messages read to you by Siri, it can do that. It can play your music on Spotify. I mean, it does pretty much everything a tablet would do, and they give it to you right here in front of you. pretty impressive. But of course, you need your comm system like a Cardo in order to hear the messages and the music and so on and so forth. The turn-by-turn instructions by Waze and whatnot. Now the buttons feel good. It does have 3 riding modes, and it does feel very premium at this in this area of the bike right here. The levers actually feel really nice as well. So do the side mirrors. I mean, it's really rather impressive, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a lot better than I thought it would be. And it also has a steering damper down there for extra safety when you're going at speed on the expressway. And it does also have an up and down quick shifter, which works really, really well. And I just don't feel like they skimped on many things on the bike. I mean, I think they've done a pretty good job. Powering the bike is a 799cc liquid-cooled parallel twin engine that pumps out 94 horsepower at 9,000 RPM and 81 Nm of torque at 8,000 RPM. You get KYB suspension set up, fully adjustable up front, and a preload adjustable for the rear. The stopping power is provided by 320mm dual discs up front and a 260mm disc at the back. It does come with dual channel ABS. The 800 NK sits on 17s with Maxxis tires. The fuel consumption, depending on how you ride, is just about 23 kilometers per liter, which is actually rather impressive. And it's a pretty light bike at 189 kilograms. Plus, the seat height is a very Pinoy-friendly 795 millimeters. I'm 5'6" with a 764 millimeter inseam. And that is your situation. It does feel, or it feels like a little bit taller than 795, but it's still very manageable. All right, let's do a quick sound test, shall we?
Alright, sitting in the saddle, well, as I mentioned a while ago, it is pretty comfortable. The ergonomics are decent, and the seating position is pretty standard. But it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's a good place to be honest with you. It's pretty easy to ride a bike in the city, but when you take it out on open roads or to carve up some twisties, that's when you really feel how great this bike is. It's nice and flickable, it's light, and that's when you can have a lot of fun. And to be honest with you, I had a lot more fun with this bike than I had anticipated. Now, I've recently been to the CFMOTO factory in Hangzhou, China. And when I was there, I was super impressed with the way things run and just the facility itself. I mean, they have already a joint venture with KTM, and soon they're gonna have one with Yamaha. And that says a lot. I mean, why would established brands like KTM and Yamaha want to work with a company that's been around for barely 30 years? I think that does say something. And this bike kind of represents all of that. It's honestly pretty impressive, especially when you think about the price tag. I don't think there's anything in the price range that, anything in the price range of this bike that offers everything that this bike does. So let's talk about the competition, right? The competition, for me at least, in my opinion, a lot of people were saying, or some people were talking about the Street Triple and the Monster of Ducati. But if you're looking at a Triumph and a Ducati, or maybe a BMW F900, you're not looking at a CFMOTO. And that's just the honest truth. Those three, the premium market, are really more competing with each other. So if you're looking at the CFMOTO 800 NK, the likelihood of you looking at another bike would be closer to maybe the MT-07. That's the one I think that's more at par with this in terms of comparison, specifically because of the price tag. Also, maybe Suzuki has one that's in the price range that's close to this one as well. But the one that really comes to mind is kind of a sibling of the 800 NK, and that's the Duke 790 of KTM. That's the one that really feels like this. In fact, why wouldn't it? I mean, it's kind of like, they're kind of like siblings. In fact, they're kind of like siblings that were separated at birth, and then they found each other again later on in life. They have very similar DNA. In fact, when I ride this bike, it feels like I'm kind of riding the Duke 790 in some strange way. There is no traction control on the bike. And I guess for some people that's okay, but for other people out there, I'm sure the extra safety feature of traction control would benefit them, especially, well, in the riding conditions that we have here in the Philippines right now, when the roads are wet and it's, when you have other things on the road, like dust and whatnot. I think traction control is something that bikes, at least bikes that have a certain performance, should have when they're riding it on the road. Of course, when you're on the track, you probably turn it off anyway. But here on the road riding with a bike like this, I could definitely use traction control for extra safety. Now, I think intermediate riders would have a lot of fun in this bike. I mean, it's a nice bike to move up from the 450 NK or maybe the 390 Duke. It's something that I think that people after have riding experience for a couple of years or maybe at least a year with a smaller displacement, such as the 400 NK or the 450 NK or the smaller Dukes, the 390. This is a nice step up. Now, the challenge for CFMOTO, which I've probably said in multiple CFMOTO videos here at MotoDeal, is really more than anything that the company is so young. I mean, first of all, the president of the company is in his early or somewhere in his 30s, so he is kind of forward thinking. He does take risks. He does want something more specific with his bikes, but it's still a very young company, which means there's really not much heritage when it comes to the brand. And there's not a lot of people out there who don't ride that know what a CFMOTO is. And that's a hurdle that the brand is going to encounter from now until basically it earns its spot in the table, so to speak. But the way that they've pumped out bikes this year, it's been really impressive. So it's really, the truth is, it's just a matter of time before CFMOTO earns that respect, earns that badge of respect from motorcyclists that when you pull up to a motorcycle, a TAM bike, and then you're in a CFMOTO, that it's something that that people won't look down upon. So, because sometimes you still get that because they don't know what it is. You're not like everybody else. But it's also kind of the draw of CFMOTO for me, because you're not another Japanese Big Four, right? I mean, you pull up into a cafe or you pull up into a TAM bike, you're on something that's very different, but you're almost at par in terms of performance and features and fun factor with the bike. So I think that's really the more important part about this bike, more than anything. The branding, the heritage, that's gonna come eventually. But they're definitely on track to earn that badge in the very near future.
So, is the CFMOTO 800 NK a worthy adversary compared to its more popular counterparts? Well, the short answer is yes. And perhaps what makes it even more attractive is the price tag, as this bike can be yours for a starting price tag of 488,800 Philippine pesos. That, as I've said before, is a very good deal. For more information about this bike and other MCs out there, log on to www.motodeal.com.ph. It has been Gene Rufino. Hope you guys enjoyed. Going to be on the ride.